Be Me, 34, communications director and women's empowerment speaker. Built platform around women's voices being heard. Women are talked over constantly. Men dominate conversations. We need to reclaim our narrative. Gave TEDx talk about interruption culture. How men interrupt women 33% more often. How male opinions are valued over female expertise. How women are silenced in professional settings. Had successful consulting business. Teaching companies about inclusive communication. Making sure women's voices weren't drowned out by male colleagues who thought their opinions mattered more. Wrote viral article. Stop mansplaining. Why women don't need your unsolicited opinion. Got 3 million shares. Women relating to constant experience of men offering opinions they didn't ask for on topics they knew better. Met my partner at 31. He was 33, architect, quiet type, thoughtful, didn't talk much in groups. But when he did, had interesting perspectives. Early dating was good. He'd listen to me talk about my work, my ideas, my opinions on everything. Would nod, ask questions, seem genuinely interested. Sometimes he'd offer his own perspective on what I'd said. That's interesting, I think. Have you considered? At first this was fine, even nice. He was engaged, thinking about what I said, contributing to conversation. But after a few months, started noticing pattern. I'd tell story about work. He'd offer opinion on how I handled it. I'd mention problem I had. He'd suggest solutions I hadn't asked for. I'd share political view. He'd play devil's advocate, questioning my position. One evening, ran about. Frustrating client meeting. Client had mansplained my own work to me. Expected sympathy, validation. Instead got, maybe he didn't realize. You were the expert. Did you establish credentials at start of meeting? This irritated me. I knew I was expert. Client should have known too. I shouldn't have to establish credentials to not be mansplained to. He nodded. You're right. Just thinking maybe. For next time, you could. I didn't ask for advice on next time. Just wanted to vent. He looked confused. Sorry, I thought. You thought wrong. Not everything needs your opinion. He went quiet. Rest of evening was tense. Week later, discussing article I'd read about gender wage gap, sharing my thoughts, my analysis, my anger about inequality. He listened, then said, I wonder if part of it is also about negotiation. Studies show women. Stopped him. Are you seriously going to mansplain the wage gap to me? I wasn't mansplaining, just adding to discussion. I didn't ask for your opinion. He sat back. Okay. Went back to his book. Month into living together. Pattern continued. I'd share thoughts. He'd offer opinions. I'd get irritated. Tell him I didn't ask. He'd go quiet. Started happening more frequently. Discussing movie we watched. I'd explain what I thought. Themes, symbolism, meaning. He'd offer different interpretation. I saw it more as, that's your opinion. I was sharing mine. I know I was just adding your unsolicited opinion. He stopped mid-sentence. Right. Sorry. Conversation about furniture. For apartment. I like modern style. Clean lines, minimal. Showed him options. He looked at them. These are nice. What about something with more warmth though? Like. I didn't ask what you thought. I'm showing you what I like. I thought we were deciding together. We are. But I don't need your opinion on my taste. Then why show me? To keep you informed, not to get critiqued. He looked hurt. That's not what I. Never mind. Started noticing. He stopped offering opinions at all about anything. When I'd ask, what do you think about this? He'd shrug. Whatever you want. No, really. Oh, what do you think? I don't have opinion. Everyone has opinion. Not sharing it. You said you don't want my unsolicited opinions. I'm asking now. So it's solicited. I'd rather not. Why not? Because I'll say something you don't want to hear. Then you'll get mad. Easier to just not say anything. This frustrated me. Wanted his input when I asked for it. Just not when I didn't. Seemed simple enough. But he wouldn't engage, even when invited. Month 3. Noticed he'd stopped participating in conversations at all. We'd be with friends. Everyone discussing politics, culture, ideas. He'd sit quietly when directly asked his opinion. He'd deflect. I don't know much about it. Haven't thought about it enough. Rather hear what others think. My friends noticed. Is he okay? He's so quiet. Doesn't he have opinions? He does. He just doesn't share them. Why not? The long story. Brought it up later. My friends think. You're too quiet. He shrugged. Okay. Don't you want to participate in conversations? Not particularly. Why not? Because anything I say will be wrong, will be mansplaining, will be unsolicited opinion. Safer to say nothing. That's not what I meant. You can share opinions. When appropriate. When's appropriate? When asked. When it's your expertise. When it's productive. How do I know if it's productive? Before I say it. You just know. I clearly don't. So I don't say anything. Started realizing. Impact of this. On our relationship. We didn't really talk about anything substantial. I'd share my thoughts. He'd listen. That was it. No back and forth. No debate. No exchange. Just me talking. Him listening. Silently. When watching news together. I'd comment on stories. He'd say nothing. When reading articles. I'd discuss them. He'd nod. When planning trips. I'd suggest destinations. He'd agree. Everything was my opinion. My decision. My perspective. With him just silently accepting whatever I said. Started to feel lonely. Like talking to wall. Brought it to therapy. Individual session. Explain situation. Told partner repeatedly. I didn't ask for his opinion. Now he never shares it. Even when I do ask. Therapist asked questions. Why didn't you want his opinions before? Because they were unsolicited. Mansplaining. Interrupting my thoughts. Were they actually mansplaining? Or just participating in conversation? Thought about it. He never talked down. Never assumed he knew better. Just offered perspectives. Guess it was just participating. So you shut down his participation in conversations. Now he doesn't participate. And you're unhappy. Put that way. Sounded bad. But yes. What did you want him to do? Listen when I talk. But also engage. When appropriate. How's he supposed to know when it's appropriate? If you've told him his opinions aren't welcome? Didn't have good answer. Went home thinking about this. Watched him that evening. Reading quietly. Not talking. Not engaging. Just existing. In same space. Tried to start conversation. What are you reading? Book about architecture. Interesting? Yeah. What's it about? Different approaches to sustainable design. Oh, what do you think about what it's saying? It's interesting. But what's your opinion? He put book down. Why do you want my opinion? Because I'm interested. You've never been interested before. Called it mansplaining. Called it unsolicited. Why is now different? Because I'm asking. You've made it clear. My opinions aren't valued. I'm not risking sharing them just to be told. I'm mansplaining. This hurt, but was fair. Started researching for professional reasons about conversation dynamics, about opinions and exchange. Found interesting work on dialogic communication, conversation as exchange, not just serial monologues. Healthy conversation involves both people sharing, both people listening, both people building on what others said, not one person talking at other, while other just receives passively. That's not conversation. That's monologue. Realized that's what our relationship had become. My monologues. His silent reception. Not actually communicating. Just me broadcasting. Started seeing this in my work too. Looked at my consulting, my talks, my writing. All focused on women's voices being heard. Making space for women. Ensuring they weren't talked over. All good goals. But had I gone too far? Was I teaching women that men's opinions were inherently unwelcome? That male perspective was always mansplaining? Started getting emails from women who'd followed my work. One wrote, I followed your advice. Told my husband, stop giving unsolicited opinions. Now he doesn't talk to me about anything meaningful. Just agrees with everything. I miss real conversations. Another email. My boyfriend stopped sharing his thoughts after I told him too many times. I didn't ask. Now I realize I miss his perspective, even when I disagreed. These emails troubled me because they mirrored my own experience. Started examining what mansplaining actually was versus normal conversation. Mansplaining Man explaining something to woman who knows more, assuming his knowledge superior because she's a woman, talking down, condescending, ignoring her expertise. Normal conversation. Both people sharing perspectives, both building on ideas, both contributing thoughts, even without being asked, because that's how conversation works. The difference was assumption of superiority, condescension, ignoring expertise, not just offering opinion. Realized I'd been conflating the two. Every time partner offered perspective, I called it mansplaining, even when he was just engaging in conversation, being part of discussion, contributing his thoughts, like normal people do. Made post about this on my platform. Vulnerable admission. I think I've been shutting down normal conversation. Detailed my experience. Telling partner I didn't ask for opinion. Him stopping sharing. Me missing his input. Realizing my mistake. Response was divided. Some followers angry. You're backtracking. Giving men permission to talk over us again. Others grateful. Thank you for this. I've been doing same thing. Pushing away my partners. Contributions. Calling everything mansplaining. Men's response is particularly strong. This is what happened to me. Tried to be respectful. Stopped sharing opinions. Now girlfriend complains. I don't engage. Another. My wife tells me she doesn't want my opinion, then gets mad when I don't have one. Can't win. Started doing research. Surveyed 4,000 women who identified as feminists about conversation patterns. Results were revealing. 81% had told partner at least once, I didn't ask for your opinion. 67% noticed partner sharing less after being told this repeatedly. 73% missed partner's input once it was gone. 58% struggled to distinguish mansplaining from normal conversation. 89% wanted partner to engage, but 76% also wanted control over when that happened. The contradiction was clear. Women wanted men to share opinions, but only when invited. Wanted conversation, but only on their terms. Wanted engagement, but wanted control over when. That's not how conversation works. Published findings. The conversation control paradox. Wanting dialogue on demand. Article detailed research. The contradictions. The relationship impacts. The loneliness both partners felt. Article went viral. Millions of shares. Because it named what many experienced. Women who'd shut down. Partners' contributions. Men who'd stopped participating in conversations. Both sides unhappy. Neither knowing how to fix it. Started getting contacted by researchers, by therapists, by journalists. Everyone wanted to discuss this phenomenon. Interviewed Dr. Sarah Martinez, communication researcher, who studied this. She explained, what you're describing is common pattern. Woman enforces strict rules about when man can speak. Man complies by not speaking. Woman feels lonely in one-sided relationship. She continued, problem is confusing. Actual mansplaining, which is condescension, with normal conversation, which includes unsolicited opinions. That's how humans communicate. But don't women have right to not be lectured at? Absolutely. But there's difference between someone lecturing and someone contributing to conversation. How do you tell difference? Mansplaining involves assumption of superiority, condescending tone, ignoring woman's expertise. Normal conversation is equals sharing perspectives, even when not requested, because that's dialogue. She gave example. If you say I'm frustrated with client meeting, and he says maybe try starting differently next time, that's not mansplaining. That's normal support. That's conversation. Versus, if you explain your strategy, and he says, well, actually, you should do it this way, because I know better. That's mansplaining. The difference was respect and equality, not solicitation. Started seeing this in my own past. Reviewed conversations with my partner. Times I'd said, I didn't ask for your opinion. Most of them, he'd just been participating normally, contributing thoughts, being part of dialogue, not mansplaining, not condescending, just talking, like people do, and I'd shut him down for it. Went to couples therapy to address this. First session, therapist asked him, how do you feel about conversations now? He was quiet. Then honest. I don't have them. What do you mean? I don't have conversations. I listen to her talk. I nod. I don't contribute. That's not conversation. That's just listening. Why don't you contribute? Because every time I did. For first year. She told me. She didn't ask. Called it mansplaining. Eventually I learned. My thoughts weren't wanted. He continued. So I stopped sharing them. Stopped having opinions. About anything we discuss. Easier than being told. Constantly. That my input is. Unsolicited and unwelcome. Therapist turned to me. Is that what you wanted? No. I wanted him to stop. Mansplaining. Not stop talking. But you told him. Not to share opinions. Unless asked. He's following that. I meant don't lecture me. Don't be condescending. Did you say that? Thought about it. No. I just said. I didn't ask for your opinion. Over and over. Until he stopped giving them. So he followed. Your instructions? Now you're unhappy. With the result. Yes. What do you actually want? Want him to engage. To share perspectives. To contribute to discussions. But not to mansplain. How's he supposed to know? The difference. When you've punished. All contributions. The same way. Started crying. Realized what I'd done. Created environment. Where he couldn't speak. Couldn't share. Couldn't be himself. Without risk of being called mansplainer. So he just stopped. Being part of conversations. Therapist gave homework. For me, identify difference. Between mansplaining and normal conversation. Stop treating them same. For him, try sharing opinions. In small, safe ways. Rebuild confidence. In contributing. First week. He tried once. Oh, we were discussing. News story. I gave my take. He hesitated. Then added. I wonder if. There's also. Economic factor. Before I could respond. He tensed up. Waiting for me to. Shut him down. Took breath. That's interesting. Tell me more. He looked shocked. Really? Really? I want to hear. He relaxed slightly. Explained his thought. It was insightful. Different from mine. Added to discussion. We had actual conversation. First time in months. It felt good. Second week. He tried again. More confident. I was talking about. Decision at work. He offered perspective. I listened. Considered it. Even disagreed. But didn't shut down. We debated. Actually debated. Like equals. Like partners. Like people who valued each other's minds. Had forgotten. How much I missed this. Month 2 of therapy. He was participating more. Sharing thoughts. Offering opinions. Contributing to discussions. And I was receiving them. As contributions. Not attacks. As dialogue. Not mansplaining. Started noticing. How much richer. Our conversations were. How much I learned. From his perspectives. How much closer. Oh, we felt. When actually communicating. Not just me talking. Him receiving. But both of us. Sharing, building, exploring. Together. Made post about recovery. Rebuilding dialogue. After shutting it down. Detailed the journey. How I'd stopped. His contributions. How he'd stopped. Contributing. How we were. Rebuilding together. Learning distinction. Between condescension. And conversation. Response was strong. Women sharing. Similar experiences. I did this exactly. Shut down my husband. Now trying to. Rebuild conversations. It's hard. Another. My boyfriend said. Same thing as yours. That he doesn't feel. He can talk to me. I didn't realize. I'd done that. Men sharing too. Thank you. For showing recovery. Is possible. I stopped talking. To my girlfriend. Maybe we can fix this. Started developing framework. For distinguishing. Mansplaining from conversation. For my workshops. And personal use. Mansplaining checklist. Is he explaining something you clearly know more about? Is he assuming knowledge? Based on your gender? Is he talking down/condescending? Is he ignoring your expertise? Is he continuing despite your clear knowledge? If yes to these, that's mansplaining. Normal conversation checklist. Is he offering perspective? As equal contributor? Is he building on what you said? Is he sharing experience? That's relevant? Is he engaging with your ideas? Is he respecting your expertise while adding thoughts? If yes to these, that's conversation. Key difference. Respect and equality versus condescension. Started teaching this in workshops, helping women distinguish between being talked down to and being talked with. One workshop participant had breakthrough. I've been calling everything mansplaining. When my husband offers any thought I didn't ask for, she continued. But looking at checklist, he's not condescending, not assuming superiority, just participating in conversation. I've been shutting down normal dialogue. Another participant. I do this too. Anytime boyfriend disagrees with me or offers different view, I call it mansplaining. But it's not. It's just conversation. Started seeing this pattern among many women. Overcorrection. From being mansplained to real experiences of men talking down, explaining things condescendingly, ignoring women's expertise. Those were real. Those were wrong. But response had been to label all male contributions as mansplaining, even normal ones, even respectful ones, even equal dialogue. And that overcorrection was killing relationships, creating loneliness, shutting down connection. Published major article. Mansplaining versus conversation. Learning the difference. Detailed the distinction. Gave examples. Provided framework. Shared stories from women who'd overcorrected and were now rebuilding dialogue. Article was shared by major outlets, discussed on podcasts, featured in newsletters. Because it addressed real confusion many were experiencing. Got interviewed on major podcast. Host asked, "Aren't you worried this gives men permission to mansplain?" No, because I'm not saying all male contributions are fine. I'm saying learn difference between condescension and conversation. How do women do that? By examining motivation and manner. Is he talking down or talking with? Is he assuming superiority or offering equal perspective? Is he ignoring expertise or building on it? Those questions reveal the difference. Another interview. Woman journalist asked, "But don't women have right to not want unsolicited opinions?" In specific contexts, yes. If you're venting and need just listening, say that clearly. I need to vent, not looking for solutions. That's different from blanket rule against all unsolicited input. That kills conversation. So women should specify what they need. Both people should. If you want just listening, say so. If you want input, say so. If you want debate, say so. Clear communication about what you need in moment. That's different from shutting down all unrequested contributions. Started seeing cultural conversation shift from never give unsolicited opinions to distinguish between condescension and dialogue. More nuanced, more accurate, more helpful. My own relationship, 6 months into recovery, was dramatically better. We had real conversations, both contributing, both listening, both building on each other's thoughts. He was comfortable sharing opinions, disagreeing with me, offering perspectives without fear of being shut down, and I was receiving his contributions as valuable input from equal partner, not as mansplaining. Recently we had intense discussion about political issue, disagreed strongly, both stated positions, both challenged other, both listened, both considered, ended without resolution, but with understanding. Afterward he said, "That was great. A fight was great. Not a fight, a conversation where we both actually participated. First time in years. I could disagree with you without being told I'm mansplaining." He was right. It was great to have real dialogue, to disagree respectfully, to both contribute fully without walking on eggshells. Made final comprehensive post. 1 year after. Rebuilding real conversation. Full journey. Shutting down his opinions. Him going silent. My loneliness. Therapy and recovery. Learning the distinction. Current state of dialogue. Post resonated deeply. Thousands of shares. Comments from women and men, all experiencing similar patterns. This is my relationship. I shut him down so many times. Now he won't talk. Going to show him this. Another. I'm the quiet partner. After being told too many times my opinions weren't wanted. This gives me hope. Another. Sharing with everyone. This is so important for healthy relationships. Final reflections. After year of recovery. Key lessons learned. Mansplaining is real. Men talking down to women, assuming superiority, Ignoring expertise. That happens. That's wrong. But not all male contributions are that. Most are just normal conversation. People sharing thoughts, building on ideas, contributing perspectives, even when not asked. Because that's how dialogue works. Distinction matters. Condescension versus conversation. Talking down versus talking with. Ignoring expertise versus engaging. Assuming superiority versus offering equality. Learn to tell difference. Don't shut down all input just because it's unrequested. That kills conversation, creates loneliness, destroys connection. Also learned about communication needs. If you want just listening, say so clearly. I need to vent, not looking for solutions. Partner can provide that. If you want input, welcome it, even when unrequested, because that's dialogue. If you want debate, engage fully. Both people contributing, both people challenging. That's healthy, but can't have dialogue. On demand, can't want conversation, only when you invite it. That's not how communication works. Current relationship proves this approach works. We talk about everything, both contributing freely, both listening actively, both valuing others' input. Sometimes I want just listening. I say so. He listens. Sometimes he wants just listening. He says so. I listen. Sometimes we want debate. We both engage, challenge each other. No one shuts down. Sometimes we want input. We both offer it, even unrequested, because we're partners who value each other's minds and perspectives, not because everything needs our opinion, but because conversation is mutual exchange, not controlled broadcast. That's real dialogue. That's real connection. That's what works. Not shutting down all unrequested input, but distinguishing between condescension and conversation, between mansplaining and normal dialogue, between being talked down to and being talked with. That distinction, that nuance, that understanding makes all the difference. Between loneliness and connection, between silence and dialogue, between control and conversation. That's what I learned from saying repeatedly, I didn't ask for your opinion, until he stopped sharing one ever again, even when I desperately wanted to hear what he thought, what he believed, what he had to say, all silent, because I taught him his thoughts weren't welcome unless explicitly invited, and even then, might be called mansplaining. Safer to stay quiet, safer to have no opinions, safer to just agree. That's what I created. That's what I had to fix. By learning distinction, by rebuilding dialogue, by welcoming his voice back into conversations, back into our relationship, back into my life, because I missed it, missed his perspectives, missed his challenges, missed his contributions, missed real conversation with someone I loved, who had thoughts and ideas and opinions worth hearing, worth considering, worth engaging with, even when unrequested, because that's what partners do. They talk, they share, they contribute, they build together through dialogue, not monologue, through exchange, not broadcast, through conversation, where both people have voice, have input, have value. That's what I learned the hard way, by shutting down his voice until silence was all that remained. Then slowly, painfully, carefully, rebuilding it, learning to hear condescension when present and conversation when not, learning to welcome his contributions, his perspectives, his unrequested opinions, because they're not mansplaining, they're dialogue, their partnership, their love, expressed through engaged conversation between equals who value each other enough to share what they think, what they believe, what they have to say, even when not asked, because that's how people connect, through mutual exchange, not controlled silence. That's the truth. That's the lesson. That's what works. Real conversation, real dialogue, real connection between two people who both have voices, both worth hearing, both contributing to shared life together.